In this GarageBand for iOS quick tip video, I'm going to show you how we can add in all of these additional AU or audio unit extension plugins provided by Apple here in our GarageBand on the iPhone or the iPad. However, there is a serious limitation to these, which I will explain in this video. So let's go. Hi, my name is Pete. This is Studio Live Today, where I help you create, record, and release your best music. Now, if you've been using GarageBand here in iOS for a while, you might be aware that we have all of these effects in here. Under our little mixer icon here, we can come into plugins and EQ, and we can actually add in additional effects. And if we don't like the effects we have there, we can hit on the plus here and add in these additional effects. And I've got a heap of videos, which I will link, as I usually do, up above and down below about these effects. But you'll also notice that there's this audio unit extensions as well. And I've talked about these before as well. These are third-party plugins, which are different apps that support the AU or the audio unit extension that you can actually use in your projects. Now, you might notice, and you might already have these, that Apple have their own AU plugins that we have here. What I'm going to show you in this video is how we can enable them and a couple of uses for them. But let's talk about the limitation right up front before we get too carried away and excited about these. What the problem with these is when we add these on, so let's just do an example here. If we just throw on this peak limiter on this particular track here, what we can do is come in here and we can dial in our settings. So we can add our attack and our release and our pre-gain and get it all sounding and looking nice, which is good. The problem is if we close out of this song and then we load up that project again and go back into our plugin settings, bam, it has reset these back to the default setting. So a plugin that resets to its default settings every time you close and reopen is not the most useful thing in the world. Now, I'm not 100% sure why this is the case. Every time that there's a new GarageBand update, I'm hoping that Apple fix it and that we can actually use these more effectively. But for the time being, at the moment that we're recording this anyway, that is not the case. So that being said, I'm still going to go through and show you how we can add these in, and I'll show you a couple of ways that we can use them even with that limitation that could be handy in your GarageBand project. So let's jump in and do that now. Firstly, to enable these plugins if you don't have them already. Now, you may have them on already, but if you don't, all you need to do is go back to your home screen and go to settings, and then in your settings, go down to GarageBand here on the left. So if you scroll and you keep scrolling down in the settings, like so, there we go. Just took a moment to catch up and we find GarageBand, and then over here on the right we scroll down and we find the enable iOS effect plugins, and if that is off, all you need to do is switch it on and then return to your GarageBand and you should have these enabled. Now if you don't, just close down all of your apps and reopen them, or you may even need to restart your iPhone or your iPad. Sometimes they just don't show up until you've done those additional steps, but eventually what you should find is that here in your edit menu, if we just delete that and we go plus, under audio unit extensions, we'll have all these. And sometimes it will do this where it doubles them all up because it got a little bit confused that I turned it off and back on again, but that's okay. They're all still there. That's just another little quirk of Apple. So that's how we get these enabled. Now let's take a look at some of the uses for these effects here in GarageBand. So first of all, how do we use these on an individual track? Well, here I have my track here with a clean combo guitar that sounds like this. And if we wanted to add one of these effects, we go into our mixer icon there, plugins and EQ, tap on edit, tap plus, and then we go to our audio unit extensions. Now, if we scroll down here, let's just find a simple type one. Let's use this delay effect, and we can come in here, and the default delay is going to sound pretty terrible because it's a 1 second delay. It sounds like this. So that sounds really messy, and it's got a 50% wet signal. So let's dial this right down to make it something like a 0.1 second delay, and let's make the dry wet down to about 25, and let's take a listen. Still sounds pretty terrible. We'll just increase it a little bit. How about this? There you go. That's a more natural sort of delay, the sort of delay that we would want on this track. Now, you're thinking, well, as soon as we close and reopen, we are going to lose this delay, which is absolutely true. So how do we actually keep it? Well, we use our old friend, the merge function. So what we can do is we can tap on this track, we can go merge, and then if we select just this track and merge it, what it's going to do, it's going to duplicate the song, it's going to normalize the volume of this track, and then it's going to merge it into its own brand new track, which does mean we lose the ability to make additional changes. So you do need to be sure that that is what you want the track to be before you do this process. But now, once it does its merge, and it's being a bit slow at the moment because I'm throwing so many different plugins and effects and things at it, once it's done this merge, we'll be able to play it back and show you how this affects our track. Okay, it's done, and I've realized why it was taking so long. For some reason, I have an extra couple of hundred bars of nothingness in this track, which it had to incorporate in this merged track. But anyway, here is the merged track now. Now, notice it's a bit to the left here, you can see, because I had it panned to the left. So that's something I probably should have panned at center before I did all of this. But now, if we solo just this merged track and turn the volume down a little bit, because it's going to be a bit louder, it'll sound like this. And now it has that delay baked into the track. So if you add this effect to any instrument or any track, and you can do it to any virtual instrument, any amp sim, anything you like, you then need to merge it. And then now, if we go out back to our My Songs, and then we load up the track again, then our merge track's going to be there. Because it's no longer an effect that's on the track, it's going to be baked in there, and it's going to play back every time. So that's a way that we can actually use these effects to affect your sounds here with that limitation of them resetting. Now, the other place that I like to use these effects is in mastering. Now, I've recently moved over to Final Touch for more of my serious mastering I did for my recent album, but that's only available on the iPad. So if you are on the iPhone and you want a simple and effective and free way to master your tracks, you can still use this trick. And I have a video about how I mastered a recent track using exactly this method, which again, I will link up above and below. But here's a quick refresher on that now. So here is the track as it sounds, and let's play it back. Hey princess, what? So what if we wanted to just add some limiters and maybe a little bit of EQ to this? Well, we can go into our plugins here, we can go to our plugins and EQ and tap on edit, and then we'll add here, go to our audio unit extensions, and let's grab our peak limiter, which should be down here. It's a bit confusing with these double ups here, and we'll tap on that one. So let's play back. Let's just dial up the pre-gain here and just get a little bit of limiting on this track. What's that in your eye? So there you go, just 3 dBs of additional gain. And I talk all about limiting in other videos, which again will be in the related videos in the description down below that you can check out. And you can also check out Final Touch if you did want to learn more about that for mastering. But for now, this is the way that we can actually do this. Now, you might be thinking, well, if I add a bunch of these, how do I then make some tweaks if I want to adjust it? Well, yeah, this is where it gets a bit shady, but what you can do is you can take a screenshot of this, and if you take a screenshot and then go back, you can then adjust the settings back. Now, it's clunky, it's not the best way to do things, but again, we're talking about free plugins here, and there's no other really quick and effective way to add things like a limiter, to some shelf, some high pass and low pass shelving, and some of that dynamics processing that you get with these plugins. So it is a good and effective way to go, but again, you've got those limitations. But once you've done all of this, the good news is that when you come out to here, we can then, if we say wanted to export this, we can select and then share this as a song file here, and it's going to go and keep those settings in there. So we won't lose our settings until we actually reload it. And when we reload it again, we go in and there you go. The pre-gain is back down to 0. So that's just another way that I've found that I'm using these different effects here in GarageBand iOS. And there you go. Now, this has really just scratched the surface of audio unit plugins and other third-party applications that we can use as AU plugins. Really, the sky is the limit for these. You can find plenty of free and paid-for plugins that will help you with all sorts of things, from compression to EQ to limiting to mastering, that you can actually add in here. So, in fact, why don't, if you have some great suggestions or ideas of plugins and audio unit effects that you use, let the rest of us know. Drop some comments down below in this video and let us know what you're using, what you're finding effective, some of the free plugins and some of the paid plugins that you use in your GarageBand projects, and let's share what we are finding effective here in GarageBand. Thanks again for watching. If you've got any other comments, questions or suggestions, you can leave those down below as well, and I'll see you on the next video. Hey, thanks again for watching and for sticking around to the end. If you'd like to learn more about using effects here in GarageBand iOS, there are 2 more videos linked down below. You can also subscribe to the channel by clicking on the Studio Live Today icon in the top right, or head on over to studiolivetoday.com for more audio goodness.